KOTA territory, welcome to your first sip here on KOTA Now. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we hope you are having a wonderful morning, and thank you for joining us. Hope you're having, a nice cup of coffee, cup of tea, or whatever you're drinking this morning with us. I'm Humberto Giles Sanchez.
And I'm Mimi Herrick.
And we're glad to see you here. We're kind of recapping a little bit of what we talked about yesterday and today. Yesterday being the Mediterranean diet and some of the health benefits of it, because you hear about it all the time. I don't know about you, but I got so tired to the point where I was like, fine, we'll do a first sip on it. I'm curious what actually goes into it.
What is the science?
Yes.
Here?
Why do I keep hearing Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets, if not the healthiest diet?
Yeah.
Why is it the healthiest? What makes it healthy? Well,
we can jump right into that.
Yeah,
with that one. The Mediterranean diet is healthy because it focuses mostly on whole foods. So vegetables, whole grains, beans, olive oil, and they don't use a lot of red meat. Healthy fish is encouraged,
Yep.
Chicken, stuff like that, but not that really dense, heavy.
Only a little bit, moderate amounts of dairy, like you said, poultry, eggs, and occasionally, every now and then, seafood. Red meat is very rarely, if ever, eaten in the Mediterranean diet. It's not discouraged, though. It's just rarely eaten.
Yeah.
But kind of some of the stuff that you can go through, like we mentioned, fruits, veggies, whole grains, legumes, beans, nuts and seeds, seafood, herbs, spices, olive oil, moderate amounts of dairy, limited red meat, and minimal processed foods and sugary drinks.
That would be a hard one for me to cut out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Although I will say there is another thing, is if you do want to drink something sugary, and if you are of age 21 years or older, sometimes a cup of red wine or a cup of white wine actually goes well with the Mediterranean diet.
Interesting. I
but
didn't
again,
know that.
yeah, again, like I said, you have to be 21 years and older to do that.
Yes.
Otherwise, stick to water. It's probably best for you.
Yeah.
But what are some of the kind of health effects here? Why, when we're talking about some of these things we just listed off that were taken from the Harvard Health website and the Mayo Clinic, what are some of the things that can kind of how do these benefit the body?
Well, a lot of things come from those healthy fats, right? So they're the unsaturated fats. Sorry, I couldn't remember which kind of them. The unsaturated fats are a huge health booster. Healthy fats are really important to our diet, and that they can help with lowering levels of cholesterol, and they can lower levels of the bad cholesterol, right? So the LDL cholesterol.
Right. We want less saturated and trans fat in our meals.
Yes.
That's what causes. That's what can lead to some severe health effects later in life.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, olive oils and nuts are a huge kind of factor into helping reduce that, especially kind of helping you with, if you have cholesterol, maybe olive oil and stuff like that also help you kind of lower that. And some of the other things, if you do want to go with meat and you would decide to go with fish instead of red meat, let's say there are some fish that are also some really healthy choices for the Mediterranean diet. And some of those, to start off, are mackerel, herring, sardines, tuna. Specifically, I'm going to try to pronounce this. I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try to pronounce this. Albacore tuna, salmon, and anchovies, which, if those sound appetizing to you, go ahead and maybe have them in moderation in some of those Mediterranean diet meals. And no, it is not just salads. There's a lot of salads involved.
That.
Yes, there's a lot of salads involved, but it's just it's cooking with a combination of like we mentioned, those fruits, veggies, nuts, seafood, herbs, spices, and stuff like that. Reason being,
and one of those health benefits that I saw that I thought was really interesting was JAMA Network had a study where the Mediterranean diet prevented bone density loss in people who were or older women that were trying to lose weight. And this is something that typically does happen with weight loss in older women, is you can lose that bone density, and that can be really dangerous, right? Because then you're more prone to breaking bones, and that would be bad. But combining the well-balanced and reduced calorie diets with physical activity can prevent bone loss even when losing weight, specifically the Mediterranean diet, because of its rich nutrients in vitamin C and vitamin K, which promote bone health, and then also those healthy fats that we were talking about, the unsaturated fats, help reduce inflammation in the body. So it can be a really helpful thing for people who are trying to lose weight but don't want to sacrifice then their bone health.
No, exactly. And, one of the biggest questions to me, was why herbs and spices, right? Well, it's because, it helps boost the flavor, needing less sodium in your food. Sometimes salt can be a blessing to various cuisines, but sometimes it can be a curse when consuming it too much, when overly consuming it. And a lot of food nowadays contains a lot of sodium. And so kind of having those herb spices in your food kind of help you deviate from needing too much salt in your food. The dairy, helps you with a lot of the good, nutrition that you need for whatever everyday purpose, right? Especially if you're doing that, cup of milk could actually help during a Mediterranean diet. Substitute that for water if you're feeling like that.
Not a milk person, I'm not gonna lie. That does not sound appetizing to me, but maybe like some cheese.
What's weird? I am a milk person, but I only drink it for breakfast.
Really?
Yes, I cannot, for some reason, I cannot do milk after noon. Actually, after 11 o'clock.
I have comments, but I'm gonna keep them to myself. I'm not gonna yuck your yum here. But I guess, is there anything else we want to touch on that Mediterranean diet before we hop right into composting?
I think we covered basically the bulk of it. Why it's healthy, why we keep seeing this as a headline in multiple stories, health stories. Just being, it's because a lot of the stuff, not only that, but it can actually help with longevity. And actually, some studies show that it actually helps you live longer.
Oh, interesting.
So, there's still being studies done about that, why that is. But the ones that I chose today were primarily focusing more on the food and why the food that, you may choose to eat with it can all work together to make your body healthier.
Hey, and speaking of all those vegetables you're going to be eating a lot, you might want to compost them.
Yes.
So we talked about composting at home today on Good Morning Black Hills on the first sip. And composting is something that you can really easily do at home, or you can be working with like professional composting sort of sites and people. So
nature's way of recycling.
Getting rid of that, lowering that food waste.
Yes, I absolutely love the way that the EPA put that. The Environmental Protection Agency. I still can't say that this morning. I will get that right at some point today and then restart again next morning. But the Environmental Protection Agency puts it the best way possible. Composting is nature's way of recycling. And it's just a good resourceful way for you to be able to not, fill up the landfill with those scraps of food that you use. Again, not all foods are good for composting. Not everything is good for composting as well. So don't just start throwing everything, don't just start throwing everything in a bin and call it a day. You have to kind of watch out what you do and what you use when you are composting. For example, one of the biggest ones here in Rapid City, and it's a reminder from the city, do not use wood chips.
Don't.
Specifically,
don't do it.
Don't use wood chips. If it's treated wood chips, don't use them. Untreated wood chips, I would double check for that, but treated.
Definitely check the city website. They had a lot of great resources there in terms of composting and city ordinances and what you should be looking out for if you are here in Rapid City. If you're not in Rapid City and you're maybe out in the hills somewhere, again, check your city website and see what is allowed in terms of composting and where and how. But in terms of what you can compost, there's a lot of cool stuff. So like, veggies, banana peels, coffee grounds, tea bags, but without the staple, grass clippings, leaves, twigs, dead leaves, dryer lint, things like that. And you can even add pet hair to a composting bin. Did you know that?
No, I did not know.
I did. I found that out when we were researching for this because that is not something that I would have guessed that you can compost. But yeah, if you want to if you're brushing your dog or cat and you want to dump that out into your composting bin, that can actually help.
I might just start doing that, especially because my cat, my girlfriend's cat sheds a lot.
Yeah,
so
my cat sheds a lot too. But
I'm going to bring that up to her. We might start doing that actually, because I didn't know. That's really cool.
I found that out this morning actually.
But some things that you should avoid is meat, whether that is fish that you're using in the Mediterranean diet. Do not throw that away in the compost pile. No bones. No red meats, no cheese, dairy products, that's a no. Reason being is because those two can actually attract animals, and you don't really want to open your compost bin and find an animal,
Like
a
a
wild animal in
raccoon or
there.
something.
Yeah.
They're cute, but they're scary.
Yes, they're cute from a distance.
From a distance.
Yes, fat, oils, grease, cooked foods. Small amounts are fine, but if it's cooked, you kind of get involved with the addition of the oils in there. So you might not want to put that. You probably shouldn't put that in your compost pile to begin with. Compostable food service and compostable bags. Sometimes those are actually
Those need to be professionally
Yes.
composted, not like an at-home
Yes.
situation. So that same thing with the cooked food and the meat and the cheese and the fat and stuff. A backyard composting thing won't reach the heat temperatures needed to do that safely. And because of that, it is not recommended to do that at home. But if you do want to work with a professional composting service, they probably can reach those temperatures safely with the right equipment.
Yes, and that's again. Thank you for saying that. That was that was something I kept seeing all over the EPA website. Is that certain products need to reach a certain temperature to be able to be composted. So and then herbicides, aggressive weeds, weeds with seeds, diseased and pest infested plants. Because if you do that, then your whole compost pile is going to be infested with whatever that plant had. And then treated or painted wood. Again, chemicals, don't want that. Pet waste and cat litter, dryer lints, glossy paper, and produce stickers. Make sure you take that, when you do buy a banana, make sure you take that sticker off and then put that sticker away, throw that sticker away, and then you can compost that banana peel. But other than that, I mean, those are some ways. Some other ways, again, like Mimi said earlier, make sure to check the Rapid City website. If you are composting here in Rapid City, make sure to check your city website wherever you are composting to double check what you can and cannot put in that pile to keep you safe and keep your community safe.
Yeah, and also ensure that you're staying within city ordinances. I know here in Rapid City there are certain ordinances about like what sort of yard waste situation you can deal with, and just making sure that wherever you are doing what is legal and safest for you. And some other tips that we have is we talked about what you can compost, but like how you can do it at home is you can make these kind of chicken wire bins in your backyard and it'll help air it out, right? But you want to kind of layer it between greens and browns. So the greens are things like the fruit and vegetables, grass clippings, and then the browns is like dry leaves, plant stalks, twigs, shredded paper. And layering that makes sure that you get the best results and that everything can kind of mix together well. And then another tip that I saw online was don't let it get super soggy because then it will take a lot longer for those things to decompose fully into the compost that you need. And make sure that you're mixing everything very well. Again, when you layer it, you want to make sure that everything gets combined nicely so that it is even not problematic situation for you.
Yes. And there are two different forms of composting. I don't quite remember what the second form was, but it had to do with worms. I forgot what it starts with a V. I don't remember what the actual word is, but it involves worms. Again, if you do end up doing either one, it takes time.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to be from day and night. Be patient, yes. It does take a lot of time for this, a while to kind of, for this to start decomposing and kind of do nature's thing, kind of give you some good stuff for your plants or your garden. But also don't use this as a substitute for fertilizer, as it is not meant to be that, as certain fertilizers also have other benefits that maybe your compost doesn't, and other different things. But with that being said, we hope you enjoy today. We hope it's a nice Tuesday, and I'm excited for the rest of the day. We heard on Good Morning Black Hills, and you should tune in at noon today for another look at that first alert forecast, because it's looking pretty good, at least for today and tomorrow. And then we're looking for more moisture, at least later on during the week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, one hand, or else Eric's going to yell at me. But with that being said, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Again, thank you for joining us on First Sip. We'll see you back here on Thursday, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for the midweek weather update. But for now, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday morning.